You fight like my sister.
Ah! Greetings and welcome to That Works, a DreamWorks podcast featuring a happily unemployed photographer barely getting by with DoorDash, a disgruntled ex-journalist now writing Scott Pilgrim fan fiction, and a spineless, asthmatic 26-year-old curmudgeon sweeping movie theaters for a living.
Oh.
So as if you've caught our other episodes, we have been working chronologically through the DreamWorks catalog. We started with Ants, then had The Prince of Egypt, and now The Road to El Dorado is our current movie. And before we dive into it, again, our usual spoiler warning. Yes, these are 20-year-old kids' movies, but we want you to experience the magic, without anything spoiled for you. So again, we will be openly discussing the things that happened in the movie. So, The Road to El Dorado. Two con men escape from the authorities and come across a map to the legendary city of gold, El Dorado. Whoa, ho, ho. Stowing away on Cortez's ship to the New World, Tulio and Miguel take an adventure to find the city, and when they arrived are hailed as gods in human form. But can they keep this charade up?
I don't know.
They kind of do, but not really. Yeah. We'll get into that. It came out in 2000. Jake, what did you say? You were in high school?
Yeah, I was a freshman.
I was 5.
And me and Dickey
I
were...
hate you both.
You were probably... preschool? Did you do preschool? Some people don't do preschool.
I did preschool.
So you were probably in preschool. I was in the thing between preschool and kindergarten because...
And I was learning to drive.
You could have driven us around if you knew us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like Boss Baby.
You should have just had to hop over to the east side of the state and drive me around.
So, Road to El Dorado is the second of 4 DreamWorks movies that are mostly animated in 2D, the hand-drawn. And it's very nostalgic for us, at least. I can't remember what you said. I know for us, we were little kids when we saw it. Is this nostalgic for you? Do you remember?
I never saw this. This is one because I was in high school, and high school was that weird period of time where I really didn't care for movies, much less good movies. Thank you, Anchorman. I missed out on this. This is actually my first time watching
That's right. I think I just checked that. Yeah, so, you know what? This was his first time seeing it. How about you lead us off on what you thought?
Take us away.
All right. Well, like I said, it's the first time watching it. It was shockingly good. I laughed a lot.
Oh, it's funny.
A lot. It's bright and colorful. I think it exemplifies one of the things I talked about in our previous episodes with Prince of Egypt, how a lot of times in animation things are over exaggerated to show emotion. And whereas with Prince of Egypt there really wasn't any of that. Their eyes and motions are very fun and flamboyant, and their eyes are this big, and I liked it a lot. I had my things with it,
We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But as first thoughts, I liked it a lot.
That's good. As growing up and being a kid, this was probably one of my favorites. I loved literally all of the music. Just the general characters were literally caricatures because they were so over the top and fun. That's what really stood out.
To them too. Nothing. We're not talking Prince of Egypt.
No,
but they did have some.
No, they did have depth. Yeah. It stands by the characters stood out, the music stood out, and it was just the overall sense of fun and just pure ecstasy and enjoyment. That
ecstasy, huh?
Literally, I could watch
of gold.
I guess
exactly. Those are my starting off thoughts. Is ecstasy.
I really didn't like how you said that just now. I think I'm going to wash that ecstasy off my back in the shower right now because Not yet. I have a vivid memory of this. It's not when I was a kid. I think I was in college, and it was a snow day. It was a real bad winter. It was probably 2013 or 14, somewhere in there. And I remember me and my two siblings are at home because there's no school, and we're up because we all woke up, and I was like, well, I can't get back to sleep. And I remember watching the movie and eating pancakes, because not only are pancakes amazing, but I just remember sitting there eating pancakes, watching this because it was on a streaming service at the time. It's like, hey, let's watch Road to El Dorado. We haven't seen this since we were kids because we watched it all the time as kids and loved it. Mm-hmm. And I think what works, and I don't think I mentioned this for the other movies, they're so short that not only is a challenge like this much easier when you have this many when they're short, but you can get sucked in and then it's over. Like not too quick, just it's a nice afternoon kind of watch to it. And
it is a good run, like I do agree.
And they had Elton John do the songs, which that's always a plus.
You get Elton John singing, like it's funny you mentioned like you remember like a vivid time watching it. I literally remember sitting in my parents' camper with with an old like tube TV that only played VHS tapes. And
was it the Shrek one? Was it before Shrek came out, or was it the green Shrek one with the ogre ears?
It was not the green Shrek one. Unfortunately, it was not. But that is
Story doesn't matter.
That is the vivid memory that I have with this too. Just sitting there, it was cold. We're watching El Dorado because it takes place in the sun, so it warms you up. It warms your heart. It warms up every part of you.
It warms up the puke that's going to come out of my system every time you open your mouth right now. Good grief, ecstasy and warmth of the sun?
I can't
That sounds like a Beach Boys record.
To be fair, this movie feels like a Beach Boys record. I'm not going to explain that.
That's a little bit of a valid point. That's like halfway to a valid point.
I'm not going to explain it.
This is the Beach Boys biopic we always wanted.
Exactly.
I remember I'm not only laughing a lot this time around, but I don't know what it is about the vibe of it, besides how everything comes together. I remember hearing the song when they're traveling there, which at first I was like, I kind of would like seeing them go there, not it be a montage, but the montage is so much fun and the song is so good. I think the trail we blaze.
On the trail we blaze.
So,
it's a good song, but I can't remember it right now.
Okay, we're gonna write down a rule. Dickey cannot sing. That doesn't mean you don't have ability, which you don't, but you are not allowed to sing unless
I'll stop. I promise. The only other song I have to sing is that "It's Tough to Be a God."
That one's fun too. It started, and I'm starting to get like the hair on the back of your neck kind of, and you're starting to cringe. It's like, oh no, but then you're like, no, this is fine.
It's fine.
This is fine.
It really is.
And they're, besides the animators, the MVPs are Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh. They're so good, and I know everyone knows they recorded their lines together, which doesn't happen that often because it's harder to edit around that. But they're so much fun. They play off each other so well.
I actually did not know that they did that, and you can sense it. You can sense the chemistry between those two. They're just having a good time recording, and I can just feel that.
And they got a nice back of it because Miguel is like the romantic, the dreamer, who falls in love with the city itself. And then you have Tulio, who's more of the cynical realist, who he's literally there to get the gold. More than that ends up he gets out of it. But that's essentially all he cares about. It's 2021, bud.
What? The girl? He gets the girl!
You don't have to do that. Canceled. We're canceled now.
Pack it up.
Actually, no, we're not canceled. We just fired him.
Yeah.
We just fire him.
We cancel him.
All right, it was nice knowing you. But might I point out how good the sports were in it? And by sports, I mean the one game that they played. The sport.
You mean where if you lose, you die?
Yeah, okay, so that was serious, which the movie could actually get serious. Now, it didn't do it often, but it did do it, and it did it well. But no, the sport was fun. Like, that just seeing them, like, play around, and then, like, when they lose the ball, obviously. And
I spent 15 years of my life thinking armadillos bounced.
I know.
Then you finally see one, like a video one, you go,
Those are
how did they bounce that? How did it bounce itself? It's like, Jared, it's an animated movie.
It lied to us. It lied to us.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like there's a lot to unpack, but at the same time, there's really not a ton, just because it's one of those you just have to sit down and watch it yourself, really.
I will.
You guys are going to hate me.
Go ahead. Bring it on.
One of the things I did write down about this that I really loved is it's one of the things I also saw in a lot of the DreamWorks films. They have a really interesting mixture of background and foreground animation.
You do.
It really stands out to me, like more in something like Spirit, but definitely it started in this. That being said, I was a little underwhelmed with the character development of the two main guys. I just felt like they got everything they wanted and nothing really had to be sacrificed.
They lost all the gold.
All the gold, yeah, but that's all the gold.
I mean, that is.
But they saved the city.
Yeah.
They did something. I guess you could say that it wasn't really selfless because they kind of did what they had to do to get out of there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they did kind of lose it all, except for the horses.
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe I'd have to watch it again. Watching it again, this is the first time I watched it. It's just kind of, I felt like there were more interesting stories in the side stories than what I was seeing. Like there were a lot of holes with like the king and the priest. Like why were they rivals? Why was the priest even bad other than just being there for being a bad guy?
I mean, that's fair.
But the voice acting was great.
Yeah, I see where you're coming.
I won't deny you that. It's a fun movie. And
especially when the priest went over the top and was like, "This sacrifice," like,
and it's really well in it. Was just some of the things that watching it, I was kind of like,
There are a few moments, and again, we're not talking bad on animators. Some things become the computer animated stuff. And I can get why for certain reasons, but like the barrels they're in on the boat, it's like, I understand this is probably to save time, but does that not match?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I kind of, so I'm trying to visualize, like, I remember like the majority, like a good amount of it was just straight up 2D. And then, I don't know if it was this was the first 3D shot, you could prove me wrong, but when they actually picked up the barrels and moved them onto the ship, it did feel like, okay. Like,
I think that they were trying something and kind of priming the pump for what they were going to move towards.
Yeah, another valid point. It's in I think I've said this before, this movie is in that school of early 2000s movies that blend the two styles. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work too well. It's not terrible, but it's not aged well because you got this one and Sinbad do it a lot. Spirit does, but they use it in a better way, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
You also have Fox's Titan AE does that a lot, and it's a lot more noticeable. And Treasure Planet does it a lot too.
Yeah,
and that one's
true.
They don't always hide it the best, but for the it's easier with the sci-fi stuff when everything's metallic. But like in this one, it's barrels. It's okay.
Yeah.
Not to get hung up on the barrels.
Like why didn't they do that with like the city pieces that were, gold and metallic? And
I think the boat was on the big waves at the end. I think, wasn't it a little bit?
I think
it's been a little bit since we've seen this.
But no, because like you're kind of saying, like when you move into like El Dorado, like when it's like the little more fantastical kind of place, the mixing between the 2D and 3D makes a little bit more sense. Like it fits the setting a little bit more so than just like that random shot with the barrels.
We are not getting hung up on the barrels. That's just the only thing I
also think this is also going to be a hot take. I felt like a lot of the soundtrack did not match what I was watching.
No, there is a distance. I think it's because no one is singing on screen. I think that's why.
That might, and it felt like it was supposed to be them singing on screen, though.
Like the Trail We Blaze.
The Trail We Blaze. So was that the one where they're going through the jungle before they get to? Okay, that's the one where I was like, I feel weird.
Or where, and I'll talk about this in a second, when Miguel is spending the day in the city, and he's supposed to be singing. It's supposed to be working as like an inner monologue thing, but how he's seeing, this isn't just about this. There's people here. I don't think they expected people to be living there. I think that's the other thing. But that's also a scene going off of, there are side stories that you're like, I really like there's a moment where they're not, something where the people aren't allowed to be out, and he's like, no, just let them.
Yeah,
I
remember. Yeah.
It's kind of like this liberating thing that happens, but at the same time, it's like that's not the focus.
One of the main things that I remember, which, by the way, side note, whoever was animating the female protagonist in that movie was definitely watching Roger Rabbit. As he was
who is wonderfully voiced by Rosie Perez.
Yes.
She's great.
Yes.
However, I would have liked to see more of her story. Like they never kind of explain why she's trying to run out of El Dorado and steal stuff, except for that, she's just a thief. That she's just
trying to get out, but they don't explain like what is the reasoning other than
I feel like the only reason she's in there is to be the romantic piece and also to push them along towards getting out.
Yeah, which she does serve the plot in another sense of when they need help, things explained to them how to pull off the charade. She is essential, but again, she's not as deep of a character as the other two, which the other two, again, aren't the deepest of characters.
And I think that is my primary issue with this film, is it's just not as deep as what I wanted to be. It's fun as heck.
I mean, the only thing that I will raise you is, did you expect it to actually be that deep?
I think more deep than what I got.
Okay.
But again, I didn't know what to expect as, I don't think I've ever heard anything bad about El Dorado, the road to El Dorado.
Which is funny because you look at, like, we put down the critical score. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It did not do well. But it did not, it's because of the context. We're coming off of the Disney Renaissance. So they're expecting big Disney musical, like, this was the same year as Emperor's New Groove, so it's a little different than the usual formula. But before that, you have, like, Mulan and Hercules and Tarzan in the years leading up. So
you could definitely see some style parallels between that and Emperor's New Groove.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah, they're both buddy movies.
Until you just said that, I didn't realize they both came out at the same year. You really can. Like, there are a lot of similarities between the two. It is interesting to think about.
They both take place in this hemisphere. Like, this is North America.
Yeah,
and Emperor's New Groove is South America, but the same feel. They're nowhere near the same time frame. I'm trying to think of when Emperor's New Groove is based, what period it's based off.
It doesn't really stand out.
We're not trying to find the historical significance of Emperor's New Groove.
To what you were asking me, I think, did I expect it to be that deep? No, because it's a children's movie, but also there are so many other movies on this list where the characters are pretty deep. Like,
yeah, I mean that's fair.
Like Shrek is honestly a pretty deep character.
Oh, that is very true.
So why aren't these guys?
That is true. That's honestly probably just the difference in.
And if you compare it to Pacha and Cusco, they're deeper than these characters, a lot deeper. So they're the comparisons with Disney coming up again.
But there again, it's a fun movie. Like, I'd watch it again. I'd watch it again and have a lot of fun.
I'd watch it again.
This is partly one of the most rewatchable movies I would consider. Honestly.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
a nice, solid 89 minutes.
Yeah, it's not that long. It's so easy to watch.
That's the thing. A lot of these early DreamWorks, the pacing is actually pretty good. Like Ants, whatever we said about it, it was pretty paced pretty well. Because if it was slower, it would have been a slog.
That would have been.
And if you're suffering, you're not suffering for long.
Yeah.
And even Prince of Egypt is perfectly paced too. Like,
I mean, the pacing is literally written for them in that sense.
Yeah. So then something like this, for how fast it moves, to still have those quieter moments thrown in, like the moment where the chief alludes to it, he knows that Miguel and Tully aren't gods. I like how it's not too obvious, and I don't, went over my head as a kid.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, it's like, okay, he knows, but that's another thing with the side stories. You can tell the chief doesn't want to reveal it because his people are happy. And that's an interesting thing that they don't really go into.
And I will say, sorry, really quick. A quick interesting thing about the side stories is if this had come out later, those would have been turned into direct-to-home video stories. That would have been your Lion King 2s and your Lion King 1.5s.
Well,
is telling like the side stories between the chief and the priest. Like I could literally see them doing that.
well, they left it open like that at the end to have other adventures, whether that's theatrical or a TV show, like whatever their plan was. But because it flopped,
Yeah.
they never did anything. That's the shame of these. Like they just didn't make money because, again, you look at the industry. The industry is changing because of Pixar. Like Disney, I think it took them 5 years to finally make one, and that was Chicken Little.
Yeah, I know.
But you get what I'm saying. Like the industry is going through a transition at this time, so stuff like this is not making money. And then you go a couple ahead. I think 2 ahead of Shrek the next year, and that did great. And Shrek we'll get to it, has kind of been one of those turning points you talked about in the last episode, like big turning point, because everyone still tries to do that formula, and it's a shame because this style and this formula just hasn't survived. Not only didn't survive for DreamWorks, it just hasn't stayed around that much.
Like, and which is part of the reason why I think I like this is because it really does feel like, and this is why I like it because I grew up in the early 2000s. It feels like an early 2000s movie.
Yes, it does.
It has your basic character traits. It has your basic plot premise. But because I grew up with it and I'm so familiar with it, that's why I love it so much. I love the familiarity of that.
If you can attest to this from growing up during the Disney Renaissance, it's like each movie is a whole different adventure, and that's what kind of is immersive about it. It's like, where are we going next, and who are our characters? It's like, what kind of genre or type of movie are we doing next? So when DreamWorks is doing stuff like this, it's like us watching it in hindsight. It's like, this is great. I wish all of them kind of did this, but when you get to the later ones in the list, they start to feel similar. Especially in the last 5 years. They really start to feel the same. It's a shame because those 4, traditionally animated movies in DreamWorks, they're all 4 are really different from each other.
They really are.
And it's really sad that we didn't get any more.
Yeah. I would be really curious to see like the actual, I know the reasons is money, but if there were any more reasons as to why they kind of gave up with this kind of style.
I mean,
money.
That's really the only
I
reason.
said it. I'm just like, yeah, it's money. It's money.
I mean, well, we write down the budget box office. 1900 according to this.
Okay, but to be honest, we say money, but there are still studios doing 2D animation.
That is true.
I think they were trying to keep pace with Disney and Pixar.
That's got to be the other thing.
Yeah.
And again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves into this, but to be honest with you, I mean, it's very clear that DreamWorks technology was a ways behind the other two. So
yeah,
that is
they
true.
had to make up some ground.
The other thing is they had just become a studio, whereas Pixar had been around since the 80s.
Well, I was going to
And
say
Disney's been around forever. They're kind of
it took them a second to get their
starting. Oh, who is it? It's Spielberg, Katzenberg, and who's the third one? I always forget who it is.
Oh, I don't remember.
who are you? What?
The big 3 that started DreamWorks. I should have written this down if we're
Come
doing
on,
a
you
whole
wrote down everything
DreamWorks
else.
podcast. But basically, it's like the 3.
Is it the Aardman guy?
No,
Or is that just the guy that did those?
that's separate studio that distributed through DreamWorks at the beginning.
Okay.
I'll remember his name later. I'm really sorry. I should have. He's the one I always forget. But Spielberg and Katzenberg are 2 of the guys behind it. So I remember they're starting kind of from scratch. I mean, Emblem Animation was Spielberg's company that became DreamWorks because they did like Balto and We're Back. There's one.
I love that.
We're Back, Balto, and there's one more I'm not thinking of. But basically, that's
why
they kind of were behind because a studio that hadn't started too much longer before and now a brand new studio.
Right. Yeah.
So are we going to talk about how raunchy Tulio and Shell get with each other?
Okay.
That everyone's been memeing about for the last 5-10 years.
Can someone explain to me how they thought that would be a good thing to put in a kids movie?
Rated PG.
Rated PG. They literally.
And then everyone becomes like some kind of like mathematician. It's like, now if you see by the angle of where head comes up, it's like,
well, that's what I'm going to say. Realistically,
and
you
go,
see her
why
head
are you-
popping
it's
up.
like, why are you looking at this old kid? Oh,
that's why.
So whatever you're talking about went just right over my head because I
Okay,
don't remember it at all.
So in a shot in the movie, like it showed him laying down like off to the side, and then her head literally like pops up over him, like she was giving him.
Yeah. Rated PG.
Rated PG.
So it's because Shell gets Miguel out of that was like the palace or something, wasn't it? What was that again? What they were living in?
Yeah, it's
I forgot.
I would say palace.
Yeah. When she gets Miguel to go see the city, when Tulio said, stay here so we can keep this whole thing going. So he goes out so that Shell can have alone time with Tulio. They cut back to that, playful music, whatnot. As a kid, you think nothing of it.
No.
And now it's like,
oh my god.
Rated PG.
Rated PG. And to kind of bounce on top of that, that's why I also think it's really relevant now, is because that movie has been memed to hell. Oh my gosh. I'm here for it, honestly. I enjoy it.
Oh, Matt.
But everything with the horse, too. Oh my gosh.
Oh, TiVo.
TiVo. Yeah.
That horse jumping into the water after the apple still kills me. I think that there's another example of the computer animation, that the rowboat going down. I think it's another part. It's like, I get why. I do. And there's more evidence of it in Sinbad when we get to that much later. But
well, and that part made a little bit more thematic sense.
It was dark. That's the other thing.
It was dark.
It's kind of like the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. They look back in the 90s. They looked much better in the dark.
Exactly.
And whenever they're in broad daylight, you went.
It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of
I mean,
again, product of its time.
Exactly.
Anything else about the road to El Dorado? Closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Honestly, I grew up with this. It's part of my childhood. I just love how much fun it is. I might say one of my favorite, one of the most rewatchable movies to me. It's just easy to put on. It's easy to enjoy.
one of those movies you can just put on and not even listen to it and still kind of
you just
absorb what's going on.
No matter what, you're just going to put it on and enjoy it. That's where I stand.
Yeah. I think for me, it's definitely one of those movies like we've been saying, if you have that emotional attachment to it, it ups. I mean, it ups it. Exactly. It just does.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't get that probably because I'm a 35-year-old watching a
20-year-old
about a 21-year-old
21-year-old kids. Yeah, just like a week or two ago.
So
this movie can drink now.
This movie can drink. This movie is also relatively just about as old as I am. So a lot of it's lost on me, I think. A lot of the wonder in it.
No, that's fair.
It's sad because it really is really good. It's really fun. That's all I have.
I wish it did better. That's the thing. Yeah. This is like the beginning of the end, because Prince of Egypt might have underperformed in their minds, but still made over $200 million worldwide in 1998. And then this one doesn't even surpass its budget, which its budget was higher, I think, than Prince of Egypt.
This was 95 million.
It was something like that. My fat fingers can't turn a page.
This was 95, and then Prince was only 70.
70. So yeah, it's a higher budget, and they made way less money. It's what else is coming out is what probably hurt it.
Yeah.
It's another one. This would have been a fun franchise to have, but
what about
it's a big what if. Watch the rest of the franchise was terrible.
Hey,
in the alternate universe,
let's make a petition for DreamWorks to make more El Dorado.
The Dorado-verse.
The Dorado. Release the Dorado cut.
Revive the Dorado-verse.
Revive the Dorado-verse. Get that trending. Hashtag it. Send it to DreamWorks. We're going to get this made.
Don't add us. Isn't that what the kids say?
Add us, actually.
Oh, yes, yeah. Add us.
Yes. We're the ones that started it.
Sorry, he's from like 1935.
Kangaroo is so stupid. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And outro.
Yeah, so our next episode, we will be looking at, I know what it is, I'm just checking, Chicken Run, childhood favorite of mine. I think you said yours too. I think you said you hadn't even seen it before this. So it's the first of the Aardman DreamWorks movies. I think there's only 3. So that's what we'll cover next time. This is That Works, DreamWorks podcast, signing off. See you next time.
Have a good day.